Welcome to the Sleepy Geographer channel, a quiet corner where the world unfolds slowly, fact by fact, layer by layer. Tonight, we begin a gentle journey into one of nature's most profound and peaceful mysteries, the eternal rest found in the shadow of a volcano. This is not a story of endings, but of perfect preservation, a gentle, natural return to the earth. Before we begin, I'd love to know where you are listening from this evening. Perhaps you're in a quiet room with a view of distant hills, or curled up in a city that never sleeps. Wherever you are, I'm glad you found your way here. If these quiet journeys bring you comfort, I'd be so grateful if you could gently tap the like button and subscribe. To those who are already part of our quiet community, thank you kindly. Now settle in. Let the weight of the day dissolve. There is nothing you need to do but listen and breathe as we explore the deep, slumbering peace of the mountain's embrace. When we think of a volcano, our minds often turn to its power. We see raging fire, flowing rock, and clouds that darken the sun. It is a force that commands awe, even fear. But tonight, we will listen for the whisper that follows the roar. We will hear the story of how that immense power can become an agent of profound stillness, a creator of timeless capsules. Imagine a quiet, sun-drenched town nestled on the fertile slopes of a great, sleeping mountain. The soil is rich from past eruptions, the vineyards are lush, and life moves to the gentle rhythm of the days. The mountain is a constant, silent presence, a familiar guardian on the horizon. It is easy to forget that this guardian holds a deep, fiery heart. And when that heart stirs, it does not always express itself with rage. Sometimes its exhalation is a slow, settling sigh. A warm grey snow begins to fall, not of ice, but of fine powdered rock and ash. This is not an assault. Think of it instead as the mountain drawing a soft, immense blanket over the world below. The ash falls particle by particle, layer upon gentle layer, muffling all sound. It covers streets, homes, and gardens in a deepening hush. It is a protective shroud, sealing everything within a perfect, airtight tomb. The world above goes silent, and the world below is paused, not destroyed. In this moment, the mountain does not erase, it preserves. It holds the memory of a day, a life, a civilization in a deep, geological slumber. This is the core of our exploration, the concept of volcanic preservation as a gentle, natural return to the earth. We are all familiar with the beautiful, necessary cycle of life and decay. A fallen leaf returns to the soil, feeding new growth. But it is a process of dissolution, of returning to pieces. Volcanic burial offers a different path. It is a swift, encompassing embrace that bypasses decay. It is not a return to the soil, but a return to the stone, a return to the very bones of the planet. In the single, cataclysmic moment of a volcanic eruption, time itself is fractured. For the communities caught in its path, it was a tragedy beyond our comprehension. But from the vast, patient perspective of geological time, that single moment became a doorway. It created a vessel that sailed through the centuries, protecting its fragile cargo from the eroding forces of wind, rain, and the relentless march of years. What would have naturally crumbled to dust was instead gifted with a form of eternity. The heat, often perceived as purely destructive, plays a crucial role in this gentle embrace. In places like Herculaneum, the intense thermal shock did not simply burn, it transformed. It vitrified and carbonized, turning wooden beams, furniture, and even the delicate papyrus of scrolls into stable, charcoal-like forms. Their molecular structure was altered in an instant, made durable enough to withstand the millennia. It was a swift, definitive change, a transition from a temporary, fleeting state to a permanent, enduring one. And the ash is the quiet hero of this story. This seemingly mundane powder is the stuff of miracles. It encases objects, buildings, and even forms in a perfect mold. It fills spaces gently and then, over centuries, solidifies into a soft, porous rock called tuff. Within this rock, organic materials may eventually decompose, but they leave behind a perfect hollow cavity, a negative space that holds their exact shape. It is like a plaster cast made by the earth itself, a perfect impression of a form long gone. This is not a grave. It is a sculpture garden of memory, patiently crafted by the mountain. So, as we prepare to delve deeper into the specific wonders of these silent, preserved worlds, I want you to hold this thought. Let it be a comfort, a strange and beautiful solace. The volcano, in its ultimate expression of power, can also be an instrument of perfect peace. It offers not the chaos of fire, but the deep, resonant silence of the earth. It is a return to the source, a reunification with the primal forces that shaped our world. The communities that rest beneath the ash are not lost. They are sleeping. They are held in the steadfast embrace of the very mountain that once gave them life through its rich soil. The cycle is complete. From the mountain they came, and to the mountain they have returned, forever preserved in a single breath of time, a testament to the quiet, patient, and preserving power of the planet we call home. There is a deep, profound peace to be found in this idea. The peace of finality, yes, but also the peace of guardianship. The mountain keeps its secrets well, allowing them to slumber undisturbed for century upon century. It is a long, deep, and quiet rest. And with that thought, we can begin to relax more deeply. Let the image of that gentle grey blanket soothe your mind. There is nothing to solve here, nothing to fear, only a story of deep time and quiet preservation. A story that reminds us that even in the planet's most powerful moments, there can be an unexpected, profound stillness. Wherever you are, whatever weight you carry, imagine it being gently covered by that same soft ash. Let it be sealed away, held in safekeeping, allowing you to find a moment of perfect peace. Your breath is slow, your body is heavy, and the mountain watches over all. When you are ready, we will move on to our next chapter. But for now, just rest, breathe, and sleep. In the year 79 AD, on the fertile slopes overlooking the Bay of Naples, a day began like any other. The sun warmed the cobblestones of Pompeii. In the smaller, wealthier town of Herculaneum, the sea breeze drifted through elegant villas. The air was filled with the simple, beautiful sounds of daily life, the murmur of conversation in the marketplace, the rhythmic clatter of looms from weavers' workshops, the rich, comforting scent of bread baking in communal ovens. Life, in all its mundane and magnificent glory, was unfolding. Then the mountains spoke, but the story we must listen for tonight is not of the roar, but of the profound and unexpected silence that followed. A silence that did not destroy but perfectly, tenderly preserved. For nearly 17 centuries, the two towns slept, their names fading into legend, their vibrant streets silenced under a deep, protective blanket of volcanic rock and ash. They became secrets kept safe in the Earth's own vault. When explorers and later patient archaeologists began their work, they uncovered more than just ruins. They uncovered a world paused in mid-breath. And the most breathtaking discovery was not gold or glittering art, but emptiness. In the hardened ash of Pompeii, they found strange, poignant cavities. These were not bones, but voids, perfect hollow molds left behind after the bodies within had slowly returned to dust over the centuries. The volcanic material had encased the forms of the fallen with the precision of a master sculptor, creating a negative space that held every intimate detail. The drape of a woolen tunic, the delicate curl of a finger, the quiet repose of a face in a final, restful moment. It was an archaeologist named Giuseppe Fiorelli who, in the 19th century, understood the profound truth of these cavities. He saw them not as empty graves, but as sacred moulds. His idea was one of gentle revelation. He would carefully drill a small hole into these cavities and pour in a liquid, creamy plaster of Paris, not to disturb, but to fulfill. Just as an artist pours plaster into a mould to create a sculpture, the earth had created the perfect mould, and Fiorelli simply provided the cast. When the plaster set and the surrounding volcanic rock was meticulously chipped away, the world witnessed what had been hidden for nearly 2 millennia. They were not skeletons but sculptures, ghostly, perfect casts of human forms, captured in a single, suspended moment of time. And here we find the deep, surprising piece. We must learn to look upon these casts not as figures of death, but as snapshots of life, forever stilled. We see the shape of a woman reclining as if in a deep and peaceful sleep, her body soft and relaxed. We see a man crouched with his arms raised to shield his head, a universal, instinctive posture of waiting out a storm. We see a small child curled as if in a crib. We see 2 souls huddled together in a final, eternal embrace. These are not gestures of pure terror, but of human response to the unimaginable. They are quiet, deeply personal, and heartbreakingly familiar. They are also casts of the life that was being lived right up until that moment. We have the cast of a soldier forever at his post, the cast of a dog forever curled in a loop, tethered to its duty. In these forms we do not see violence. We see a sudden, profound stillness. The mountain's ash did not crush the story of these people. It captured it with a photographer's precision, and then sealed it away from the ravages of time. In Herculaneum, the preservation is different, born of a pyroclastic surge of superheated gas and ash. Yet it is just as serene and in some ways even more detailed. The intense heat carbonized wood, turning beds, doors and partitions into charcoal-colored ghosts of their former selves, but preserving their exact shapes. We find a loaf of bread, its scoring still visible, baked a second time by the earth's own fierce energy. We find a child's crib, waiting forever in the quiet of a carbonized room. These are not relics of horror. They are the quiet domestic artifacts of a day interrupted. They are the peaceful, still life composition of an entire town, a diorama of Roman life. So when you see an image of the Pompeii casts, I invite you to see them in a different, softer light. See them not with sorrow, but with a quiet awe for the mountain's strange, fierce tenderness. In one breath it took life, but in the very same act it granted a form of eternity. It turned fleeting, fragile human moments into stone, gifting them to the future as a gentle, powerful reminder of our shared humanity. These figures are not screaming. They are silent. They are not running. They are at rest. They are a community forever held in the embrace of the plaster that filled the void the earth made for them. They remind us that life is fleeting, but that sometimes the universe itself decides to press pause, to preserve a moment of it perfectly and forever. Let that thought settle over you now. The idea that a moment can be so perfectly captured, so completely stilled. Imagine your own rushing thoughts, your own worries of the day, being gently encased in that soft ash, and then filled with a calm, heavy plaster. All movement ceases, all sound is muffled. There is only peace, and a deep, deep quiet. The people of Pompeii and Herculaneum are long gone, but their shadows remain, a gentle, permanent impression on the world. They are sleeping, and the mountain watches over them. Rest now with that image of peaceful preservation. Let your own body feel heavy like stone. Let your breath be slow like settling ash, and sleep. There is a profound peace to be found in the image of a blanket of snow settling over a sleeping landscape. It muffles sound, softens edges, and brings a deep, transformative quiet. Now imagine that same principle, but on a monumental geological scale. This is the story of volcanic ash, not as a destructive force, but as the Earth's own gentle blanket, a perfect protective seal that safeguarded entire worlds beneath its weight. When a volcano like Vesuvius awakened, its most defining feature was not the river of lava, but the colossal plume that rose from its summit. This plume was a vast, billowing cloud of fine rock, mineral crystals, and volcanic glass, pulverized into a fine, abrasive powder. To those below, it would have felt like the end of the world. But from our vantage point in the deep, quiet river of time, we can see a different story unfolding. It was the beginning of a long, deep slumber. As the plume reached its zenith, it began to release its burden. The ash started to fall. At first, it might have been a light, dusty haze coating leaves and rooftops in a thin, grey film. But it did not stop. It fell for hours and then for days. It fell with a relentless, soft patience, accumulating inch by inch, then foot by foot. This was not a violent impact, but a gradual, smothering embrace. The sound of the world would have grown faint, then distant, and then would have ceased altogether, replaced by the soft, continuous hiss of a billion tiny particles finding their rest. This growing layer performed a simple, yet miraculous function. It sealed everything hermetically. It filled every crack, every gap, every window and doorway. It poured into streets, gardens and homes, creating an airtight tomb that was as effective as any modern vacuum seal. This is the crucial element of the preservation. By cutting off the flow of air, it halted the processes of decay that usually reclaim all things. Oxygen, the very element that fuels our lives, is also the agent of rot and oxidation. The ash starved the world below of this agent, placing it in a state of suspended animation. Wood, which would normally have rotted away in a matter of decades, did not. It was preserved, sometimes even carbonized by the heat, its structure locked in place. Food, like the famous loaves of bread found in Pompeii's bakeries, was desiccated and preserved, its form intact for millennia. Fabrics, paintings, and the delicate papyrus scrolls in Herculaneum's libraries were shielded from the moisture, insects, and fungi that would have otherwise consumed them. The ash acted as a perfect desiccant, drawing out moisture and creating an environment where life's decomposers could not thrive. But the blanket did more than just preserve objects. It preserved space itself. As the ash settled, it filled rooms not as a solid, crushing block, but as a fine, particulate fluid. It conformed to the shape of everything it touched. It flowed around a three-legged table, preserving the empty space beneath it. It nestled into the curves of an amphora and piled gently upon a sleeping couch. It encased the most fragile things, a delicate glass vial, a piece of woven furniture, without necessarily crushing them, holding them in a soft, solid embrace. Over time, the gentle blanket began to transform. The weight of subsequent layers and the subtle chemistry of rainwater filtering down caused the ash to begin a process of cementation. It slowly solidified into a soft, porous rock known as tuff. This rock was strong enough to maintain the structural integrity of the cavities within, yet soft enough for modern archaeologists to carefully excavate. The blanket had become a stone cocoon. This process created the perfect conditions for the famous casts we explored in our last chapter. The ash formed the mold, and the slow, patient pressure of centuries provided the setting. The hollow spaces left by decomposed organic matter were held open with perfect fidelity, waiting for Fiorelli's plaster to reveal their secrets. Without this gentle, yet firm, blanket of ash, those intimate shapes would have collapsed into nothingness long ago. To walk through the excavated streets of Pompeii today is to walk through a negative of the eruption. The hardened ash that filled the streets has been cleared away, leaving the city as it was. But the ash that filled the buildings was often left inside, its level marking exactly how high it rose on that fateful day. You can see its lasting impression everywhere, a permanent high watermark of stillness. So let us reframe this material in our minds. Volcanic ash is not merely the grey dust of destruction. It is the Earth's most effective preservative. It is a material of profound patience, a substance that can still a bustling town and hold its memories safe for 2,000 years. It is the ultimate guardian of silence, a soft, mineral snow that whispered hush to an entire world, and then stood guard over that silence for centuries. As you rest tonight, imagine that gentle, steady fall, not as a thing of terror, but as a bringer of profound peace. Imagine all sound being softened, all movement being stilled, all decay being halted. Imagine a blanket woven from the very heart of the mountain being drawn over you, protecting you, sealing you in a perfect, timeless quiet. Your worries, your thoughts, your very breath, all settling down under its weight, safe and preserved. The world beneath the ash is not gone. It is simply sleeping, kept safe under its gentle grey blanket. And in that thought there is a deep and abiding calm. Let that calm wash over you now. Let your body feel heavy, as if covered by layers of soft, warm ash. There is nothing to do, nothing to be, only to rest, breathe out, and let go. We often speak of the earth as solid, stable, and cool beneath our feet. A foundation. But in certain places, if you listen closely to the ground, you can feel a different truth, a deep, resonant warmth, a heartbeat. This is the enduring comfort of the geothermal world, a warmth that persists long after the fires above have faded, offering a natural, eternal solace to those resting within its reach. The story of a volcanic burial is often framed by the initial cataclysmic heat, but that heat was merely the exhalation. What followed was not a descent into cold, but a return to the planet's sustaining temperature. The layers of ash and rock that settled over Pompeii and Herculaneum did not just seal these towns in silence. They insulated them, swaddling them in a blanket that trapped the Earth's own geothermal energy. The same subterranean forces that fueled the volcano's rage now became a source of perpetual, gentle warmth. Imagine the world beneath the ash in the days, the years, the centuries that followed the eruption. The surface cooled, seasons turned, and eventually life returned to the slopes of Vesuvius. But deep below, encased in their thick, porous layer of tuff, the ruins rested in a constant, mild climate. The fierce, scorching temperatures of the pyroclastic flows dissipated, but they were replaced by something more profound, the deep-seated geothermal gradient. For every kilometer you descend into the Earth's crust, the temperature rises by about 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. The towns were buried under many meters of material, placing them in a zone kissed by this planetary warmth. This was not the violent heat of fire, but the steady, radiating warmth of a resting giant. It is the same warmth found in natural hot springs where water, heated by the Earth's core, rises to the surface to offer comfort and healing. For the preserved world below, this geothermal embrace prevented the freeze-thaw cycles that shatter stone and crumble mortar in other archaeological sites. It created a stable, thermostatic environment where the process of preservation could continue, uninterrupted by the harshness of surface winters. This concept of earthly warmth as a comfort is etched deeply into human consciousness. We speak of being returned to the warm earth. We find profound solace in sitting before a hearth. The fires glow a miniature sun in our homes. The communities around the Bay of Naples understood this comfort intimately. They built sophisticated hypocaust systems, channels under floors and within walls through which hot air would circulate, warming their homes and baths. They lived with the earth's warmth, harnessing it for their daily comfort. In a poetic and tragic twist, the mountain that provided this subterranean warmth ultimately used it to seal them in a final, eternal embrace. They did not rest in a cold tomb, but in a place maintained by the very energy that had sustained their lives. We can think of this geothermal slumber as the planet's own form of incubation. Just as a bird sits on its eggs, transmitting its own body heat to nurture the life within, the Earth held its buried towns close, its deep warmth ensuring that the fragile structures, the carbonized wood, the delicate casts, did not succumb to the brittleness of cold. It kept them pliant in their stasis, allowing them to endure the immense pressure of the overlying rock without fracturing. This enduring warmth also speaks to a cycle of life that transcends the event that paused it. The volcanic soil of the region, enriched by previous eruptions, was famously fertile. The sun's warmth on the surface gave life to vineyards and orchards, and deep below, the Earth's internal warmth maintained the memory of the life that had once flourished there. It is a beautiful symmetry, warmth from above fostering new life, and warmth from below preserving the old. There is a deep, instinctual peace in the idea of this geothermal comfort. It counters the fear of the cold, dark grave. It suggests not a chilling absence, but a presence. The planet itself is alive, a vast living entity, and in these special places its inner life, its warmth, is palpable even in death. To rest in such a place is to be held in the constant, caring embrace of the world's own heart. So as you lie in the cool of your room tonight, let your mind drift to this concept of eternal, earthly warmth. Imagine the deep, slow pulse of heat rising from the planet's core, a warmth that has been there since the world began and will be there until its end. It is a warmth that does not judge, does not rush, does not fade. It simply is. Imagine that warmth surrounding you now, not as a scorching fire, but as a gentle, radiant heat, like that from sun-warmed stones at the end of a long day. Feel it seeping into your muscles, easing their tension. Feel it in your bones, a deep and comforting weight. You are being cradled not by cold stone, but by a living planet that holds you close. The people of Pompeii and Herculaneum sleep in that warmth. The mountain's fury passed, but the earth's gentle comfort remained. They are not in a cold, dark place. They are resting in the everlasting warmth of the world they called home. Let that same warmth lull you now. Let it dissolve the chill of any worry. You are safe. You are held. You are warm. Breathe deeply, and let the heat of your own body merge with this imagined planetary comfort. And as you do, drift gently into a deep, peaceful sleep. In our journey through volcanic preservation, we have explored the soft blanket of ash and the deep, geothermal warmth of the Earth. But there is another form of rest, one that is not soft or warm, but breathtakingly sharp and clear. It is a preservation not of forms and spaces, but of a single, perfect moment of transformation. This is the story of obsidian, the glass tomb. To understand obsidian is to understand the nature of volcanic glass. It begins not with a violent explosion of ash, but with a quiet, subterranean flow. Deep within a volcano, rock is melted into a searing liquid called magma. When this magma is rich in silica, and when it cools rapidly, something remarkable happens. The atoms within the liquid, denied the time to arrange themselves into the orderly, crystalline structures of minerals like quartz or feldspar, are frozen in place. The result is a solid that retains the molecular chaos of a liquid, a glass. This is obsidian. It is the volcano's breath, caught and frozen solid. Its formation is a study in swiftness and extreme contrast. Imagine a thick, syrupy flow of rhyolitic lava oozing from a volcanic vent. Its surface, exposed to the cool air, begins to harden into a crust. But beneath that crust, The lava remains intensely hot and fluid. Now imagine this flow reaching a body of water, a lake, a river, or the sea. The encounter is instantaneous. The water quenches the lava's fire in a flash, chilling it so rapidly that crystallization is impossible. The lava solidifies into a glossy, jet-black substance, often fracturing into sharp, conchoidal shapes as it contracts. In the span of a heartbeat, in geologic terms, a flowing liquid becomes a solid glass. This process, while born of violence, results in a material of profound stillness and purity. Obsidian is often jet black, a darkness so deep it seems to swallow the light. But hold it to the sun and you may see it is not merely black, but a window into a deep, bottle green world. Some varieties, like rainbow or sheen obsidian, hold hidden galaxies within. Play of color that shimmers with iridescent blues, golds, and purples when caught in the light. It is a stone that contains its own light, its own hidden fire, and it is here that we find its connection to preservation. Obsidian does not preserve life in the way ash does. It does not create molds of bodies or save the timbers of homes. Instead, it preserves something more elemental, the very instant of its own creation. When you hold a piece of obsidian, you are holding a moment frozen from a volcanic flow that might have occurred 1,000,000 years ago. The material is timeless. It does not weather like other stones. It does not crumble or erode. It remains as sharp and glossy as the day it was born, its edges so fine they were used for the first surgical tools, capable of making cuts cleaner than modern steel. This gives obsidian a unique, almost metaphysical quality of preservation. It is a tomb not for organic life, but for time itself. A swift, glassy capture of a volcanic moment, sealed forever in a transparent, dark shell. It is the ultimate symbol of suspended animation. Nothing can be added to it, and nothing can be taken away. It is complete, perfect, and eternal. This concept of a glass tomb can be found in nature in other, more direct ways. There are rare and astounding fossils known as obsidian fossils, where a log or other organic material has been engulfed by an obsidian flow. The intense heat typically vaporizes the organic matter, but the rapid cooling can sometimes preserve an exact, hollow mold of the object within the glass. A ghostly impression, not unlike the plaster casts of Pompeii, but rendered in the most durable of materials. To rest in obsidian, then, is not to rest in softness, but in perfect, pristine clarity. It is a cold, hard, and utterly beautiful eternity. There is no decay in glass, only an unending present. It offers a different kind of peace, not the peace of a warm blanket, but the peace of absolute finality and perfect preservation. It is the peace of a single note held perfectly forever. As you drift towards sleep tonight, let your mind play with this image of the glass tomb, not as a cold or frightening thing, but as a symbol of ultimate stillness. Imagine all the chaos of your thoughts, the flow of your worries, suddenly meeting a cool, calming presence. Imagine them being frozen in that very instant, transformed from a churning, liquid anxiety into something solid, smooth and beautiful. Each worry captured and suspended in a deep, black glass, becoming a mere fleck in a larger, tranquil whole. They are still there, but they are neutralized, silenced, and preserved as artifacts, no longer having power, only form. Your mind becomes like a piece of sheen obsidian, outwardly calm and dark, but holding within it a quiet, shimmering depth. Feel the weight of this stillness. It is a heavy, solid piece. There is no need to move, no need to think. Just as the atoms in the obsidian are locked in place, let your own being settle into a profound and motionless calm. The world outside is fluid and changing, but you are held in a perfect, glassy moment of rest. Sleep is the obsidian of the mind. It takes the flowing chaos of our waking hours and cools it into something smooth, silent, and restorative. Let yourself be cradled by this deep, glossy silence. Let your breathing become slow and clear. And as you cross the threshold into dreams, know that you are resting in the quiet, protective clarity of your own glass tomb. In the heart of a buried city beneath the grey shroud, life was not only paused in its human form. There existed another quieter world that was also granted eternity, a world of green and growth, of fragrance and shade. These were the gardens of Pompeii, and their preservation is perhaps the most tender and poetic of all the volcano's gifts. When we picture an ancient Roman town, we might imagine only stone, cobbled streets, marble forums, and brick walls. But Pompeii was a city woven through with green. Nearly every home, from the grandest villa to the most modest domus, cherished a garden. It was the family's private oasis, a sacred space known as the hortus, or, in wealthier homes, the peristyle garden, a courtyard open to the sky, surrounded by graceful columns, where nature and architecture met in harmony. As the ash fell, it did not discriminate between the built and the grown. It settled over these gardens with the same gentle, suffocating patience. It covered the flower beds, buried the roots of lemon and fig trees, and filled the air around climbing vines. In that moment, the vibrant life of the garden was extinguished. But in the very same act, its memory was saved forever. The miracle of the gardens lies in the unique archaeology they left behind. As the organic material of roots, trunks, and stems decayed within the solidified ash, they left behind, just like the human victims, perfect cavities. But these were not the shapes of people. They were the shapes of roots. Archaeologists, using the same technique Fiorelli pioneered for body casts, began to pour plaster into these earthy voids. What emerged from the ground was not a statue of a person, but a sculpture of a root system, a ghostly white negative of a 2,000-year-old plant, its every tiny tendril and branching fiber captured in stunning detail. From these root casts, botanists could identify the exact species that grew in a particular garden. They discovered that the Pompeians loved their roses and violets. They cultivated herbs like rosemary, thyme, and basil for both kitchen and ceremony. They trained ivy to climb their courtyard walls. They grew fruit trees for shade and sustenance, fig, olive, walnut, and pomegranate. In the garden of the house of the ship Europa, the cast of a large formal garden was found, its root balls arranged in neat symmetrical patterns, revealing a carefully designed landscape, a deliberate creation of beauty and order. But the preservation goes even deeper than root structures. The ash captured the very layout of the gardens. The imprints of wooden trellises were found, showing where grapevines were trained to grow. The carbonized remains of wooden fences have been identified. In the Villa of Poppaea at Oplontis, a site even more magnificently preserved than Pompeii, one can stand in the garden and see the low, decorative stone borders that once contained flower beds, their shapes exactly as they were on that August day. To walk through these gardens now is an experience of profound peace. It is not the somber peace of the body casts, but a serene, almost joyful peace. You are not witnessing a moment of death, but a moment of life in its most quiet and domestic form. You can stand where a Roman family stood, looking out at the same garden layout, knowing that the same scents of rosemary and blooming roses filled the air. You can see the marble benches where they sat in the cool of the evening, and the shallow pools where they reflected the sky. These gardens were more than just decoration. They were central to Roman life and spirit. They were places of conversation and philosophical discussion, spaces for dining al fresco with friends and sanctuaries for quiet contemplation. They were living symbols of the Roman ideal of otium, the peaceful, reflective leisure that was the mark of a civilized life. They connected the household to the natural world, to the gods of the earth and the seasons. In preserving these gardens, Vesuvius did more than save a collection of plants. It preserved a feeling. It saved the atmosphere of a home. It held on to the intention of beauty, the human desire to create a small pocket of paradise amidst the bustle of daily life. The silence that fell was not an empty one. It was a silence filled with the memory of buzzing bees, the rustle of leaves in the breeze, and the distant laughter of children playing. So tonight, as you seek your own rest, I invite you to imagine the silent gardens of Pompeii, not as places of loss, but as the most perfectly preserved peace. Imagine a courtyard open to the stars, the air still and cool. The plants are no longer green, but their white plaster ghosts stand in quiet rows, like sculptures in a museum of tranquility. Imagine your own mind as such a garden. Your thoughts are not chaotic weeds, but the root structures of your experiences preserved and understood. Your worries are not overwhelming. They are merely the outlines of past seasons, now still and silent under a soft, moonlit ash. There is no growth here to tend, no pruning to be done. There is only a deep, profound stillness, a landscape of perfect order and calm. Let this image cradle you. You are resting in a timeless garden where nothing is demanded and everything is at peace. The air is still, the earth is quiet. The only movement is the slow, gentle rhythm of your own breath, like a soft wind through branches that are no longer there, but whose memory brings the deepest comfort. Sleep in this silent garden. Let its eternal peace become your own. We have wandered through gardens frozen in plaster and cities sealed in ash. We have seen how the earth can preserve the shape of life. But there is a deeper, slower and more profound transformation to contemplate. A process where life does not just leave an impression in the stone, it becomes the stone. This is the quiet, alchemical miracle of permineralization, the patient journey of wood, bone and leaf turning to stone, achieving a form of eternal, geological peace. Permineralization is not the swift capture of a volcanic eruption. It is the opposite. It is a story of immense patience playing out over thousands, even millions of years. It begins not with fire, but with water and a profound, settling silence. Imagine a fallen tree in an ancient forest or the skeleton of a creature on a riverbed. Instead of rotting away, it is quickly buried, perhaps by sediment from a flooding river or by the fine silt of a lakebed, or yes, even by the gentle, smothering fall of volcanic ash. This burial is the first act of peace, shielding the organic material from the scavengers and the oxygen that would return it to dust. Then the water begins its work. Groundwater, rich with dissolved minerals, most often silica from volcanic ash or calcite from limestone, begins to seep through the porous, buried material. It trickles slowly, invisibly, through the tiny, cellular structures of the wood or the microscopic canals within the bone. This is not a violent flow, but a gentle, persistent permeation, a silent baptism in mineral-rich earth. As the water moves, it leaves behind its dissolved gifts. Molecule by molecule, crystal by crystal, the minerals precipitate out of the water and deposit themselves inside the empty spaces of the cells. They do not replace the organic material all at once. They infill it. They build a perfect internal cast of the cellular structure, a stone skeleton within a skeleton. Over centuries, this process continues. The original organic material, the lignin and cellulose of wood, the collagen of bone, may itself slowly decay and be replaced by minerals in a similar process called replacement. But the structure, the very architecture of the life form, remains locked in place. The result is a fossil, not a cast, not an impression, but the original object transformed. A piece of wood that has become solid quartz. A bone that has become agate. It retains every microscopic detail, the annual rings of the tree, the grain of the wood, the marrow cavities of the bone. But it is no longer fragile. It has traded its temporary organic nature for the enduring strength of rock. It has become a part of the planet itself. This process carries a different kind of serenity than the sudden stillness of Pompeii. Permineralization is the peace of deep geological time. It is the peace of a river carving a canyon, of a continent drifting. There is no rush. There is only the slow, sure and gentle work of water and stone, collaborating across millennia to grant a form of immortality. The anxiety of decay is gone, replaced by the slow, certain certainty of mineral transformation. We can see this process mirrored in the fate of some materials within volcanic deposits. While not fully permineralized over millions of years, the wood buried in the ash of Vesuvius underwent a similar rapid transformation through a process called silicification. The hot, silica-rich waters circulating through the ash deposits replaced the wood's organic cells with opal and other silica minerals, effectively turning them to stone while preserving their form. These petrified remains are a testament to the same principle, a transition from the fleeting organic world to the eternal mineral one. There is a profound philosophy in this transformation. The tree that once reached for the sun becomes a stone that now anchors the earth. The creature that once breathed and moved becomes a permanent feature of the landscape. It is the ultimate reconciliation between life and the planet. Life is not erased. It is translated. Its essence is transcribed from the language of carbon and water into the language of silica and calcite. It becomes a literal part of the enduring story of the earth, a sentence written in stone in the great geological library. So tonight, as you lie in the quiet, let your mind drift to this slow, patient peace. Imagine your own being not as something fragile and temporary, but as something in a state of gentle, gradual transformation. Imagine any turmoil, any anxiety, not as a destructive force, but as the water seeping through you. And imagine a deep, crystalline calm as the mineral, a sense of unshakable peace, slowly depositing itself within the very cells of your being. With every breath in, imagine that mineral-rich silence flowing into you. With every breath out, imagine the fleeting organic worries dissolving away. You are not being destroyed. You are being fortified. You are undergoing your own gentle permineralization, trading the soft vulnerabilities of the day for the strong, silent resilience of stone. Feel the weight of this transformation. Your body feels heavier, more solid, more grounded. You are not just lying on your bed. You are becoming part of it, part of the floor, part of the very foundations of the earth. You are settling into a peace that is measured not in minutes, but in ages. The world outside is busy and loud, always changing, always decaying and renewing. But you are turning to stone. You are entering a stillness that has witnessed continents form and oceans rise. Your thoughts are no longer fleeting impulses, but crystalline structures, fixed and beautiful in their permanence. Let this deep, geological calm cradle you. There is nothing to do, nothing to become. You are already undergoing the most patient and peaceful of transformations. Breathe in, crystallize, breathe out, settle, and sleep. In a villa on the outskirts of Herculaneum, a library waited. It was not a library of stone tablets or bound leather, but of delicate papyrus scrolls, each one a fragile vessel for human thought. They held the words of philosophers, the verses of poets, the private letters of a family. Then the heat came, a wave of gas and ash, so intensely hot that it did not burn these scrolls to nothingness, but transformed them. It carbonized them, turning them to black, brittle charcoal in an instant. They were thought to be lost forever, their secrets sealed in a form too fragile to ever be unsealed. These are the unwritten letters of Herculaneum. The story of these scrolls is one of the most delicate and haunting in all of archaeology. While Pompeii was buried in falling ash, Herculaneum was struck by a pyroclastic surge, a ground-hugging avalanche of superheated volcanic material. With this surge carbonized everything in its path. Wooden tables, beds and doors were turned to charcoal, their shapes preserved with photographic precision. And in the villa that would later be called the Villa of the Papyri, this same heat swept through the library. The scrolls, neatly stored in their shelves, were instantly baked. The organic papyrus, through the miracle of carbonization, became a stable, carbon copy of itself. When excavators discovered them centuries later, they found what looked like lumps of charcoal, some still resting on their carbonized shelves, others tumbled into ashen piles. To the touch, they were as fragile as a fallen autumn leaf. If one tried to unroll them by hand, they would crumble into black dust. The thoughts inside were trapped, suspended between existence and oblivion. They were there, but utterly inaccessible. They were the ultimate unread letters addressed to the future, with no way to be delivered. For centuries, they sat in quiet mystery, a collection of over 1,800 scrolls. Scholars knew they likely contained lost works of Greek and Roman literature, philosophical treatises, perhaps even poems by Sappho or dialogues by Aristotle that the world had forgotten. They were a silent symphony, a library of whispers. The very nature of their preservation was a paradox. The event that saved them from decay also made them impossible to read. But the human desire to listen to these whispers, to open these letters, would not be deterred. The first attempts were painstaking and often destructive. In the 18th century, a monk devised a method of carefully slicing scrolls open from the side, but this often damaged them irreparably. Later, others tried slowly, delicately unrolling them onto a backing of silk and gold beater's skin. It was a procedure of immense patience, like performing surgery on a ghost. A few scrolls yielded their secrets this way, revealing texts by the Epicurean philosopher Philodemus. But the process was too risky for the vast majority of the collection. The letters remained unwritten in our own time. Technology has begun to offer a key to this ancient lock. Scientists are now using tools as advanced as particle accelerators and high-resolution CT scanners to peer inside the scrolls without ever touching them. They are mapping the internal structure, tracing the subtle, mineral-based ink that rests on the carbonized papyrus. With sophisticated algorithms and virtual unwrapping software, they are attempting to flatten the scanned spirals of the scrolls into readable text on a screen. It is a digital archaeology of the most delicate kind, a conversation with the past conducted through X-rays and code. To hold one of these scrolls, or even to imagine holding one, is to feel the weight of silent thought. It is a physical manifestation of a mind that ceased its work 2 millennia ago. A shopping list never completed. A poem never recited. A philosophical argument never concluded. They are not grand monuments or tragic body casts. They are the quiet, intellectual breath of a civilization, caught in its tracks and preserved in the most fragile of forms. There is a deep, resonant peace in this. These scrolls represent the ultimate patience of an idea. A thought was written down, then it waited. It waited through the fall of Rome, through the Dark Ages, the Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution. It waited, silent and unread, while the world transformed around its resting place. It did not demand to be heard. It simply was a potentiality, a promise of knowledge that endured not through being shared, but through being perfectly, silently preserved. As you rest tonight, let your mind drift to the library in the villa of the papyri, not as a place of frantic intellectual pursuit, but as a chamber of profound and absolute quiet. The arguments are over. The poems are complete in their silence. The letters have been sent, and now they simply are. Imagine your own thoughts as these carbonized scrolls. The worries of the day, the to-do lists for tomorrow, the fragments of conversations. They are not chaos to be managed, but simply thoughts that have been written down and are now at rest. They have been transformed by the heat of the day into something stable, something that can be put on a shelf and left. You do not need to unroll them now. You do not need to read them. They are safe. They are preserved. Their meaning can wait for another day, for a future version of you with the calm and the tools to understand them. Let this thought bring you a profound sense of release. There is no need to process, to solve, to decode. Your mind is not a problem to be fixed. It is a library to be respected, a quiet archive where every thought has its place, resting in perfect carbonized peace. The unwritten letters of your mind are safe. They will keep. For now there is only the deep, dark, silent comfort of the unread. The library is closed. The scrolls are sleeping. And so can you. Let your consciousness drift away from the words, away from the meaning, and into the simple, black, silent stillness of the carbon itself. In our journey through the silent, preserved world, we have encountered grand libraries and tranquil gardens. We have seen the forms of people and the structure of their thoughts. But sometimes the most profound peace is found not in the monumental, but in the mundane. It is found in the simple, beautiful artifacts of daily, simple life. And there is no object that speaks to this more tenderly than a loaf of bread baked in Pompeii on an August morning nearly 2,000 years ago. Imagine the bakery of Modestus tucked into a street in Pompeii. Before dawn, the bakers would have been at work. The air would have been thick with the warm, yeasty scent of fermenting dough. The ovens, massive structures of brick and stone, would have been stoked with wood until their interiors glowed with a fierce, dry heat. The bakers would have shaped the dough, a simple mixture of flour, water, salt, and sourdough starter, into rounds, scoring their tops to allow them to expand. Then, with long, wooden paddles, they would have slid the loaves into the infernal heat. The bread baked, its crust turning golden brown, its interior transforming into a soft, airy crumb. It was a food for everyone, for the wealthy in their villas and for the laborers on their breaks. It was the absolute staple of life, the foundation of a meal, a symbol of sustenance and community. On the 24th of August, 79 AD, the bread was finished. It was taken from the ovens and set aside to cool. And then the world ended. The volcanic ash that fell did not discriminate between a masterpiece of sculpture and a simple loaf of bread. It settled over the cooling loaves with the same gentle, smothering finality as it did over everything else. But for the bread, this was a moment of perfect preservation. The intense heat of the pyroclastic surge, followed by the airtight seal of the ash, carbonized the loaves. The organic material was transformed into a charcoal shell, but the form was locked in place, perfectly and forever. When archaeologists excavated the bakery, they found these carbonized loaves still resting exactly where they had been placed. They are round, divided into 8 wedges by deep scoring, a design that made them easy to break and share among a family or a work crew. They look at first glance like strange black stones, but upon closer inspection they are unmistakably bread. You can see the texture of the crust, the burst where the dough expanded in the heat, the deliberate cuts made by the baker's blade. This is the quiet miracle of the bread of Pompeii. It is not a king's treasure or a warrior's sword. It is breakfast. It is the most humble, essential, and universal product of human labor. Its preservation is a testament to the beauty of the ordinary. It tells us that what was truly important in Pompeii was not just the grand politics in the forum or the sophisticated philosophy in the libraries, but the simple, daily act of baking and breaking bread. To stand before one of these loaves in a museum is to be connected across a vast chasm of time to a moment of utterly normal life. The baker, whose name we know was Modestus, had no idea his work would become a monument. He was simply doing his job, feeding his community. In that he was every baker, in every town, in every era. The loaf is a fossilized moment of care, of skill, of a job well done. There is a deep, abiding comfort in this. It reminds us that our own lives, filled with their own mundane routines, the making of coffee, the preparing of a meal, the tidying of a room, are not insignificant. They are the very fabric of existence. These small, repeated acts are what build a life, a family, a civilization. The grand events come and go, but the bread must always be baked. The preserved loaf is a symbol of a cycle interrupted. The grain was sown, harvested, milled, kneaded, and baked. It was meant to be eaten, to fuel a body for another day of work, to be shared among friends. That cycle was paused at the very moment of completion. The bread was never consumed. It was never digested. It was never transformed into energy and action. Instead, it was transformed into a memory, a perfect, tangible memory of a day's work and a community's sustenance. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, let your mind settle on this image of the simple carbonized loaf. Let it represent all the small tasks of your own day, now complete. The work is done. The bread is baked. There is nothing more to do. All the rushing, all the effort, all the heat of the day has culminated in this one. Still, perfect object. A moment of rest. Imagine your own worries and to-do lists as loaves of bread, now pulled from the oven of the day. They are finished. They are what they are. You cannot change their shape now. They have been baked into being, and now they simply need to cool. The volcanic ash of the night settles over them, sealing them in a state of perfect preservation. They will keep until morning. They are safe. They are at rest. There is a profound peace in the completion of a simple task. The peace of a clean kitchen, of a finished report, of a quiet house. This is the peace of the baker, his work done, the bread waiting for the dawn. This is the peace that Pompeii offers us, not in its tragedy, but in its captured normality. Let this feeling of completed work wash over you. Your day is baked. Your duties are set aside to cool. You are nourished. You are sustained. There is nothing to produce, nothing to achieve. Only to rest as the bread rests in a perfect, silent state of being. Breathe in the scent of stillness. Breathe out the heat of the day. And as you do, feel yourself becoming as solid, as complete, and as peacefully preserved as the bread of Pompeii. We have explored the preservation granted by falling ash and transforming heat. But the volcano offers another kind of sanctuary, one born not from its explosive breath, but from its slow flowing blood. This is the creation of lava tubes, the silent, subterranean caverns that form within a river of fire, and which become, once the fire has passed, some of the most sheltered and profound natural crypts on Earth. The birth of a lava tube is a process of beautiful, destructive paradox. It begins with a river of molten rock pouring from a volcanic vent in a brilliant, incandescent stream. This is the Pahoho lava, often smooth and ropey, a fluid and relentless tide of liquid stone. As this river flows, its surface, exposed to the cooler air, begins to harden. It forms a crust, a rocky skin over the still flowing heart of the lava. This crust acts as a superb insulator, a rocky blanket that keeps the liquid interior searingly hot and mobile. Beneath this hardening roof, the river of fire continues its journey. It carves its way downhill, a secret subterranean flow hidden from view. Eventually, the volcanic eruption wanes, and the source of the lava is cut off. The molten rock still within the tube continues to drain downhill, like water emptying from a pipe, until the tube is left completely hollow. What remains is a cave, a long tunnel-like cavern with walls of glossy black rock, often adorned with drips and splatters of once molten material, frozen in time. The ceiling may be smooth, or it may sag in places where the crust was thin, creating skylights to the world above. Stepping into a lava tube is to leave the familiar world behind. The temperature drops to a constant cool stillness. All sound is muffled by the porous basaltic rock. The only light is what filters down from the occasional skylight, casting stark, celestial beams into an otherwise absolute darkness. It is a place of profound quiet and isolation, a corridor carved by fire, now occupied only by silence. And it is in this deep, natural silence that we find its connection to eternal rest. A lava tube is a ready-made tomb offered by the planet itself. Its walls are solid, its environment stable, its location hidden. Throughout history and across cultures, these caves have been used as sacred burial sites. In Hawaii, the bones of high chiefs, the iwi kupuna, were often hidden in secret lava tubes to protect them from desecration. The tubes provided a sheltered, dry, and deeply respectful final resting place, returning the body to the very substance of the islands themselves. There is a powerful symbolism in this. To be laid to rest in a lava tube is to be returned to the womb of the earth in the most literal sense. It is to be sheltered by the rock that was once fire, to be cradled by the very energy that built the land. It is a different kind of preservation than that of Pompeii. There is no carbonization, no plaster cast. Instead, there is integration. The body becomes part of the geological structure, its remains resting in a chamber that is itself a fossil, the fossil of a river of fire. The peace of a lava tube is the peace of absolute seclusion. It is a darkness that is not frightening but enveloping. It is a quiet so deep that it seems to absorb time itself. The chaotic forces that shape the surface world, the wind, the rain, the turning of seasons, have no dominion here. The air is still. The temperature is constant. It is a world in perfect equilibrium, a sanctuary of stone. For the soul seeking rest, the image of the lava tube offers a profound comfort. It is the ultimate retreat. Imagine leaving the bright, noisy, demanding surface of your consciousness and descending into a place of cool, dark silence. The swirling thoughts and worries of the day are like the chaotic surface of the lava flow, but you are moving beneath them into the insulated, hidden channel within. Imagine yourself in the heart of this subterranean cave. The walls around you are smooth and black, still holding the memory of their fiery birth, but now cool to the touch. The only sound is the distant, quiet echo of your own heartbeat, slowing to match the rhythm of the stone. The light from the world above is far away, a mere pinprick, a memory of a busier time. Here there is no past, no future. There is only the deep, dark, eternal present. This is not a place of emptiness, but of potential. Just as the hollow tube once held the potential for flowing fire, it now holds the potential for perfect peace. It is a vessel waiting to be filled with stillness. So, as you lie in the darkness of your room tonight, let your mind construct this inner lava tube. Feel yourself drifting down away from the surface chatter of your mind into a deeper, quieter stratum of your being. The entrance seals behind you with a soft, final sigh. You are in. You are safe. You are hidden. The warmth of your bed is the residual heat of the cooled rock. The weight of your blankets is the gentle pressure of the earth above. The darkness behind your eyelids is the profound, comforting blackness of the basalt chamber. There is nothing to do here. No one can find you. No demand can reach you. You are in a crypt of your own making, a sanctuary carved not by tools, but by the slow, sure flow of your own need for rest. Let the silence of the tube fill you. Let the cool, still air calm your blood. Let the absolute darkness be a balm to your tired eyes. You have entered the eternal rest of the lava flow cave. The fire has passed and left behind the perfect peace. Sleep in the heart of the stone. In the symphony of materials born from a volcano's heart, each has its own role. Obsidian is the sharp frozen moment. Ash is the soft, smothering blanket. But there is another, a stone that seems to defy the very laws of rock itself. It is a stone that floats on water, a stone full of air. This is pumice, and its role in the story of preservation is one of gentle, weightless protection. To understand pumice is to understand the violence of its creation. It begins deep within the volcano, where magma rich in water and gases is trapped under immense pressure. When the volcano erupts, this pressure is released suddenly, catastrophically. It is like uncorking a bottle of champagne that has been shaken with tremendous force. The dissolved gases within the magma expand explosively, frothing the molten rock into a fiery foam. This foam is then hurled into the cold air, where it cools in a fraction of a second, trapping countless tiny bubbles of gas within a glassy matrix. The result is pumice, a rock so full of air that it is often lighter than water. If you hold a piece, it feels impossibly light for its size, like a piece of solidified froth. Its surface is rough and porous, a labyrinth of microscopic tunnels and chambers that were once filled with the volcano's breath. It is not a solid, crushing weight, but a mineral sponge. When Vesuvius erupted, a great portion of the material that first began to fall on Pompeii was not fine ash, but a rain of this very pumice. The Romans called it lapilli, little stones. For hours, these small grey stones fell from the sky, piling up on rooftops and streets. They did not fall with the destructive force of hail, but with a persistent, accumulating gentleness. They were the volcano's opening act, a warning that was physical, yet not immediately lethal. This layer of pumice performed a crucial protective function. As it accumulated, sometimes to depths of several feet, it created a soft, cushioning layer over the city. It settled in a loose, unconsolidated pile, its countless air pockets acting as tiny shock absorbers. When heavier debris or the dense layer of ash fell later, the pumice beneath absorbed the impact. It distributed the weight, preventing the crushing collapse of many structures. Roofs that would have been shattered by a solid layer of rock were instead supported and insulated by this buoyant, stony mattress. This is the unique gift of pumice. It preserves by being strong enough to form a seal, yet gentle enough not to destroy what it covers. It settled into the streets, filling them without compacting them. It piled against walls, supporting them. It drifted through open windows and doorways, filling rooms not like a flood of water, which can smash and scatter, but like a slow-motion tide of foam, which gently occupies space. Within this porous embrace, a perfect environment for preservation was created. The air trapped within the pumice and the air trapped in the spaces between the stones created an insulating layer that moderated temperatures. More importantly, the loose, open structure allowed for the slow percolation of mineral-rich waters over the centuries, which would later lead to the silicification of wood and other organic materials, essentially beginning the slow, patient process of turning them to stone. But beyond its physical properties, there is a metaphor in pumice that can guide us toward rest. In a world that often feels heavy with pressures and responsibilities that seem as solid and unyielding as granite, pumice offers a different model. It is a rock that is defined not by its solidity, but by its emptiness. Its strength lies in its ability to hold space, to be full of air. Imagine your own mind under a rain of worries. Often we perceive these worries as solid, crushing weights, deadlines like boulders, anxieties like slabs of stone. But what if we could see them instead as pumice? What if each worry was not a solid mass, but a porous, lightweight stone full of empty space? Imagine these pumice-like worries beginning to fall, gently landing on the landscape of your consciousness. They pile up, yes. They cover things, but they do not crush. They do not shatter.
Their very nature is lightness.
They are concerns, but they are hollow. The weight you feel is an illusion. In truth, you are being covered in a protective layer of airy, stony thoughts that are shielding you from something far more dense and overwhelming. Now imagine applying this same principle to yourself. Imagine your own being becoming like pumice. Feel your body, your mind becoming less dense. Visualize tiny pockets of peace, bubbles of stillness forming within you. You are not a solid, burdened mass, but a porous, resilient structure. The pressures of the world can press upon you, but they cannot collapse you. because you are full of spaces that cannot be compressed, spaces of breath, of silence,
of peace. The protective embrace of pumice is the embrace of resilient lightness.
It is the understanding that a barrier can be strong without being heavy, and that preservation often requires not a fortress wall, but a breathable insulating layer. So tonight, as you seek shelter from the weight of the day, invite the rain of pumice. Feel your worries landing as light, hollow stones, each one a temporary, manageable thing. Feel them building up around you, not as a tomb, but as a protective mound. They seal you in a quiet space, but they do not crush you. You can breathe. The air of tranquility still moves through the countless tunnels in this porous layer. You are safe in this stony foam. The world is held at bay by a barrier of air and light rock. There is no pressure here, only a gentle, encompassing embrace. Let your body feel this lightness. Let your mind become porous, letting heavy thoughts pass through the empty spaces within you. You are not solid anxiety. You are peaceful pumice, full of silent, buoyant spaces. Rest in this protective embrace. Sleep lightly upon a bed of volcanic foam. In our quiet exploration of eternal rest, we have remained within the domain of the volcano, a world of ash, glass, and stone. But the earth has other methods of preservation, other traps that capture and hold moments from the deep past. To fully appreciate the serene nature of volcanic slumber, it is helpful to gently compare it to another famous natural preserve, the La Brea tar pits. For in this comparison, we find a profound contrast between a turbulent, active entrapment and a peaceful, encompassing descent into sleep. The La Brea tar pits, in what is now Los Angeles, were not pits of tar, but of asphalt, a thick, sticky hydrocarbon that seeped from the earth into shallow pools. On a hot day, the surface of these pools would soften, becoming a deceptively thin film over a viscous, clinging trap. To an animal of the Ice Age, a dire wolf, a mammoth, a saber-toothed cat, it would have appeared as nothing more than a shimmering pond. They would approach to drink, or perhaps to prey upon another animal already caught, and their first step would be their last. The preservation here was born of struggle. The initial entrapment was a moment of panic, of violent thrashing. The more an animal fought, the more deeply it became ensnared, until exhaustion claimed it, and the tar slowly, inexorably pulled it under. This was not a swift end, but a protracted one. It was an active, anxious death. The tar pits are museums of desperation, their fossils often found in tangled groups. Predator and prey locked together in a final, futile battle against a common, inescapable enemy. Now, let us return to the volcanic burial of a place like Pompeii. The contrast could not be more distinct. While the event itself was terrifying, the mode of preservation was one of stillness, not struggle. The falling ash was not a trap one could fight. It was an atmospheric event, a change in the very nature of the world. There was no sticky foothold, no desperate pulling against a clinging mire. There was only the gentle, accumulating weight of the sky turning to stone. For those who perished, the end, while tragic, was often swift from the pyroclastic surges, and the preservation that followed was a state of profound passivity. The ash settled around and over bodies in repose, people sleeping, huddling, or simply waiting. It did not record a struggle, it recorded a moment of being. The casts show us postures of rest, of protection, of embrace. They are not contorted in a fight against a trap, but stilled in their final, human responses. The volcanic ash was a blanket, not a snare. It invited a surrender to sleep, not a battle against capture. This difference extends to the quality of the preservation itself. The tar pits are remarkable for preserving bones, but they are ruthless on everything else. The acidic, anaerobic environment dissolves skin, muscle, and plant matter, leaving behind a spectacular but skeletal record. It is a preservation of hard structure, of the frame, but not of the form or the context. Volcanic preservation, however, can capture the entirety of a moment. It saves the loaf of bread, the wooden furniture, the root systems of gardens, the paintings on the walls. It preserves the context of life.
It saves the space, the atmosphere, the very town as a living entity.
It is a holistic preservation, a capture of a world in its entirety, not just its skeletal remains. So, what does this comparison offer us as we seek our own rest? It offers a choice in the metaphor of our surrender to sleep. We can imagine our own worries, our anxieties, as the tar pits of the mind. They are sticky, clinging thoughts. The more we struggle against them, the more entangled and exhausted we become. We fight, we thrash, and we sink deeper into a state of panicked fatigue. But there is another way. We can choose the volcanic path to slumber. We can see the end of the day not as a trap, but as a natural, enveloping event. The thoughts of the day are not sticky tar, but falling ash. They are not to be fought, but to be observed as they settle, layer by layer, upon the landscape of our consciousness. They are heavy, yes, but they are not adhesive.
They do not demand a struggle.
They simply ask for a gentle surrender. Imagine your mind as a version of Pompeii at dusk. The busy, vibrant day is over. Now a soft, grey snow begins to fall. Each flake is a worry, a task, a memory from the day. They drift down, piling up in the streets of your thoughts. They cover the forums of your ambition and the gardens of your joy. But they do not trap you. They simply quiet the world. The sound fades. The movement stills.
There is no need to fight this.
It is a natural process, a settling. This is the gentle descent into sleep. This is a deeper sleep than tar. It is a sleep born of stillness, not exhaustion from struggle. It is a preservation of your peace, not a fossilization of your anxiety. In the morning, you will be excavated, rested, and whole. The ash of the night's worries easily brushed away,
leaving the structures of your life intact and ready for a new day. So tonight,
when you close your eyes, reject the sticky, clinging thoughts. Do not engage them in battle. Instead, simply let them fall. Watch them descend as pumice and ash, each one a lightweight, porous thing that settles without a sound. Let them cover you. Let them seal you in a peaceful, insulated space. You are not sinking in a tar pit. You are being gently buried in a soft, mineral snow, a preservation of your own inner peace. The struggle is over. The surrender is complete. Breathe in the quiet air. Breathe out the last of the day's heat, and descend into a sleep deeper than tar, a sleep as peaceful and encompassing as volcanic stone. Throughout our journey, we have witnessed the individual roles of ash, stone, and heat. But to truly understand the profound peace of volcanic preservation, we must take a step back and listen to the entire composition. For a volcanic eruption is not a single chaotic note, but a grand, albeit devastating symphony. And the instruments in this symphony are the classical elements themselves: earth, air, fire, and water, joining together in a powerful, unexpected harmony to create an act of eternal preservation. Let us meet the orchestra. First, there is earth. This is the foundation, the stage upon which the drama unfolds. It is the very body of the mountain, the crust through which the fire must pass. It provides the minerals, the silica, the iron, the potassium that constitute the magma. And in the end, it is earth, transformed, that becomes the preserver. The ash, the pumice, the tuff, the obsidian, these are all earth remade. The mountain, in a profound act of self-sacrifice, uses its own substance to cradle and protect the world at its feet. It gives of its body to create a tomb of its own flesh and bone. Then there is fire. This is the conductor, the primal energy that sets everything in motion. It is the immense heat of the planet's mantle, rising. It is the incandescent magma simmering in chambers deep below. Fire provides the transformative force. It melts the rock. It vaporizes water into steam. It provides the thermal shock that carbonizes wood and scrolls, locking their forms in place. Yet, In its ultimate expression, fire does not merely destroy, it forges the very tools of preservation, the heat that hardens the ash, the energy that creates the glassy tomb of obsidian. Fire's rage gives way to fire's refining power. Next we have air. In this symphony, air is both a weapon and a protector. It is the medium through which the eruption proclaims its power, carrying the plume of ash high into the atmosphere. The force of expanding gases within the magma is what creates the explosive froth of pumice and the fine, particulate ash. But once the initial violence passes, air plays a different role. The countless tiny air pockets trapped in pumice become insulators. The airtight seal created by the settled ash becomes a barrier against decay. The stillness of the air within the sealed city creates a void, a perfect vacuum of time where change cannot enter. Air becomes the guardian of silence. And finally, there is water. It is the most surprising player in this ensemble, for it is water trapped as steam within the magma that builds the pressure that leads to the explosive eruption. It is the trigger, but after the cataclysm, water's role transforms into one of gentle, mineral alchemy. As groundwater slowly percolates through the buried city, it carries dissolved minerals from the volcanic deposits. This mineral-rich water seeps into the cavities of decaying wood and bone, and through the infinitely patient process of permineralization, it replaces organic matter with stone. Water becomes the artist, painting with minerals, slowly and meticulously turning life into a fossil. Individually, these elements are powerful, often wild and untamed. But in the specific, catastrophic event of a volcanic burial, they find a strange and beautiful harmony. Fire provides the heat and energy, earth provides the material, air provides the distribution and the seal, and water provides the final petrifying touch. They do not work in opposition, but in a tragic, perfect sequence. It is a symphony where the crescendo of destruction is immediately followed by a lingering, eternal pianissimo of preservation. This harmonious interplay offers us a powerful metaphor for finding our own peace. Our minds, too, are often a battlefield of elements, the fire of our anxiety and passion, the heavy earth of our responsibilities and burdens, the chaotic air of our racing thoughts, the flowing water of our emotions, which can feel as if they might dissolve us. We often try to silence one element to appease another. We try to extinguish the fire of our worry, only to feel the heavy weight of earth. We try to calm the air of our thoughts, only to be overwhelmed by a flood of emotion. But the volcano teaches us another way, not to fight the elements, but to allow them to find their own harmonious balance in the act of rest. Imagine your descent into sleep as this symphonic performance. The fire of your day is not extinguished, but its energy is transformed into a warm, radiating comfort that surrounds you. The earth of your burdens does not vanish, but becomes a soft, supportive bed, grounding you and holding you safe. The air of your thoughts does not stop, but settles like fine ash, each thought landing gently, losing its sharpness, becoming part of a quiet, insulating blanket. The water of your emotions does not dry up, but slows its flow, becoming a gentle, mineral-rich seepage that soothes and stabilizes your very being. You are not fighting yourself. You are allowing the different parts of your nature to work in concert to create a state of preservation. The chaos of the day is being stilled, sealed, and transformed into a memory, a fossil of experience, ready to be examined in the calm light of a new dawn. So tonight, do not wage war on the elements within you. Instead, invite them to play their part in the symphony of your slumber. Feel the fire bang to embers. Feel the earth rise to support you. Feel the air clear and settle. Feel the water slow to a deep, still pool. Let the harmony of the elements cradle you. You are the mountain, the magma, the ash, and the preserving water. You are the symphony and the silence that follows. Listen to the quiet music of your own restoration. And as the final note fades, surrender to the deep elemental peace. Sleep. In the quiet that follows our exploration of elements and artifacts, we arrive at the most expansive and perhaps the most challenging concept of all. We have seen individual rests, the peace of a single body, a single loaf of bread, a single scroll. But now we must widen our gaze to encompass the whole. We must contemplate the slumber of an entire city. For the true breathtaking scale of the volcano's preservation is not that it saved a person, but that it saved a community forever locked in a single, shared moment. The traditional narrative of Pompeii and Herculaneum is one of unparalleled tragedy, and rightly so. The loss of life, the terror of that day, is a historical horror that should never be minimized. But from our vantage point, across the vast softening distance of 2 millennia, another story has emerged from the ash. It is not a story that replaces the tragedy, but one that exists alongside it, in the quiet realm of what was saved, not what was lost. It is the story of a community not destroyed but paused, not erased, but gathered together in an eternal rest. Imagine a city not in its death throes, but in its daily life. The baker is in his shop. The politician is in the forum. The weaver is at her loom. Children are playing in the courtyard. A family is sitting down to a meal. In a single catastrophic instant, all of this was interrupted. But in the same instant, it was also secured. The falling ash did not scatter the community. It gathered it. It did not separate families. It sealed them in their homes, in their gardens, in their final embraces. The archaeology reveals this with poignant clarity. We do not find a city of isolated individuals, but a city of relationships preserved in heartbreaking detail. We find the cast of 2 people, often interpreted as a mother and child, huddled together. We find a group of 13 individuals believed to be a single household, found together in a garden, their postures suggesting they were gathered, waiting as a unit. We find the gladiators in their barracks, the sailors near the shore, the priests in the temple. Everyone is in their place, a community frozen in its natural social structure. This is not a mass grave in the traditional sense. It is a portrait of a society. The volcano did not create a random collection of victims. It preserved the very fabric of the town, its social hierarchy, its division of labor, its family units. The rich man in his villa with his frescoes and the slave in the servants' quarters are both part of the same preserved tableau. They are all in this together, their stories forever intertwined in the ash. To walk the streets of Pompeii today is to feel this profoundly. You are not walking through a cemetery, but through a neighborhood where everyone is simply
Home. The silence is not the silence of absence, but the silence of a deep and collective sleep.
The city is not empty. It is full of sleepers. The baker is still in his bakery. The wine merchant is still in his shop. The patrons are still in the tavern. They are all resting together. This reframing from a tragedy of death to a community at rest offers a different kind of solace. It speaks to a deep human longing to not be alone. It suggests that even in the most final of journeys there is comfort in togetherness. The people of Pompeii did not face the end in isolation. They faced it as a community, and they remain a community forever. They are a testament to the fact that our identities are not just individual but collective. We are defined by our connections, and, in Pompeii, those connections were granted a form of eternity. So, what can this teach us about our own need for rest? In our modern world, sleep can feel like the most solitary of acts. We retreat to our private rooms, alone with our thoughts, isolated in our fatigue. But the image of the slumbering city reminds us that rest can be a communal experience, even when we are physically alone. Imagine your own descent into sleep, not as a solitary disappearance, but as joining a vast, silent community of rest. Every person in your city, in your country, across the world is, like you, seeking peace at the end of the day. You are part of a great global turning inward, a collective exhalation, a shared surrender to the night. Your worries are not unique to you. They are the worries of the baker, the weaver, the parent, the child, all laid to rest. Your need for silence is echoed in millions of other hearts, all allowing the ash of the day to settle upon them. You are not alone in your bed. You are one sleeper in a silent, sprawling city of sleep. The walls of your room are not barriers that isolate you, but the walls of your home in this quiet metropolis. The distant sound of a car, a siren, a neighbor, these are not interruptions, but the proof that you are part of a living, breathing community that is, for now, at rest. Let this thought envelop you with a profound sense of belonging. You are part of the great human slumber. Your rest is a thread in the vast, quiet tapestry of the night. Close your eyes now and feel the presence of this sleeping world. The city is quiet. The community is at peace. There is no need to stand watch. Your shift is over. It is time to join the rest. Breathe in and feel the collective sigh of a world settling down. Breathe out and add your own piece to the silent symphony. The city sleeps.
And so can you.
In our journey, we have dwelled in the deep, quiet slumber of the city, a rest measured in centuries. But every sleep, no matter how profound, may one day experience a gentle awakening. This awakening is not a sudden, jarring alarm, but a slow, patient, and deeply respectful process. It is the work of archaeology, a discipline that mirrors in its careful methods the same tenderness with which the mountain first laid the city to rest. Imagine the sight long after the eruption. The mountain is green again. Vineyards and modern towns dot the landscape. The memory of the ancient cities has faded into local legend.
Then a discovery.
Not a dramatic explosion of digging, but a slow, dawning realization. A well digger finds a fragment of carved marble. An engineer digging a canal unearths a wall. The earth is hinting that it holds a secret. This is the first whispered invitation to awaken. The work that follows is the antithesis of the volcanic event that created the site. Where the volcano was fast, loud, and overwhelming, archaeology is slow, quiet, and precise. It begins with a gentle clearing of the topsoil, not with shovels, but with trowels, brushes, and sometimes even toothpicks. It is a conversation with the earth, not a demand. Each movement is deliberate. Each scoop of soil sifted carefully, lest the smallest coin or the most fragile piece of glass be lost. The archaeologist does not conquer the site. They court it, earning its trust layer by delicate layer. This meticulous process is a form of deep respect. The workers understand that they are not merely unearthing objects, but disturbing a grave, awakening a community. Every bone, every cast is treated not as a specimen but as a person. The famous plaster casts themselves are the ultimate act of this reverence, a technique born from the desire not to exhume skeletons, but to preserve the final poignant form of the deceased, to honor the shape of their humanity rather than just the fact of their death. The excavation of a room is not a ransacking, it is a slow revelation. As the ash is carefully removed, the space begins to breathe again for the first time in 2,000 years. The walls, still bearing their vibrant frescoes, are exposed to the muted light of a modern sky. A carbonized wooden table emerges, its form intact. A mosaic floor is revealed, one tiny tessera at a time. It is a rebirth, but a quiet one. There are no shouts, only the soft scratching of tools and the focused silence of concentration. This patient work is a mirror to our own process of unwinding. Our minds at the end of a long day are often like a buried city, choked with the ash of worries, the debris of unfinished tasks, the heavy layers of sensory input. To find rest, we cannot simply blast our way through this mental clutter. A frantic attempt to solve our anxiety before bed often only stirs up more dust. Instead, we must become archaeologists of our own consciousness. Imagine approaching your own tired mind with the same patience and care. The day's events are not a chaotic jumble to be violently dismissed, but layers of experience to be gently examined and understood. Take up a soft mental trowel and begin to carefully clear the surface.
What is this worry?
It is not a monster. It is a fragile artifact. Brush it off gently. Look at it. Understand its shape, its origin, and set it aside respectfully. Move slowly, layer by layer. The frustration from a conversation is not a wall to bang your head against, but a fresco to be carefully cleaned, its colors and meaning revealed without damage. The fatigue in your body is not a burden to curse, but an ancient structure to be uncovered and supported. This is not a process of eradication, but of respectful cataloguing. You are not trying to empty your mind, but to understand its landscape. You are gently awakening yourself from the chaos of the day, not to a state of alertness, but to a state of serene clarity. You are excavating your own peace. With each gentle breath, you are brushing away a layer of dust. With each moment of focused stillness, you are revealing the stable, beautiful structures beneath your core calm, your enduring self. The goal is not to empty the site, but to reveal its inherent order and beauty, to make it a place of peaceful contemplation once more. The patient archaeologist does not work through the night. They cover their excavation at the end of the day, protecting it from the elements, allowing the site to rest. So too must you know when to lay down your tools. There comes a point in the unwinding where the gentle examination must cease, and the simple, quiet presence must begin. The work is done for now. The site is stable. It is time to let the dust settle and simply be in the peaceful space you have carefully revealed. So tonight, as you lie in the darkness, be the archaeologist of your own slumber. Work slowly, gently, and with deep respect for the landscape of your mind. Clear away the debris of the day, not with force, but with a soft, curious attention. Reveal the peace that lies buried beneath. And when the air feels clear, and the structures of your soul are visible once more, lay down your tools. Your work is complete. The gentle awakening to yourself is over. Now the deep, quiet rest of the preserved city can begin anew. Sleep in the peaceful site you have tenderly uncovered. We have walked through the silent streets, brushed the dust from ancient artifacts, and witnessed the patient hand of archaeology. But throughout this journey there has been a constant, looming presence, a character in this story, both destructive and creative, fierce and nurturing. It is the volcano itself. And to understand the profound piece of this story, we must finally turn our gaze to the mountain and see it not as a bringer of death, but as a guardian, a powerful, paradoxical protector of the very world it entombed. A guardian is not always gentle. A castle wall is hard and unyielding. A fortress gate is heavy and imposing. Their purpose is not to be soft, but to be strong. They exist to define a boundary, to keep something precious safe from the ravages of the outside world. In this light, Vesuvius performed the role of the ultimate guardian. With a single, terrible act, it built an impenetrable wall around Pompeii and Herculaneum. It was a wall made of ash, pumice and rock, a barrier that would stand for centuries against the most relentless of foes, time itself. Consider what the mountain protected its charges from. It shielded them from the eroding forces of wind and rain that would have slowly worn the marble facades to dust. It saved them from the destructive cycles of freezing and thawing that crack stone and shatter mortar. It guarded them against the encroachment of new civilizations who would have quarried the old stones to build new homes, erasing the past to make way for the present. It even protected them from the slow, insidious decay of organic matter, the wood, the food, the scrolls, by creating an airtight seal that halted the processes of rot. The volcano became a timeless curator of its own history. It did not simply bury a city,
It collected it.
it gathered every object, every building, every person, and placed them in the ultimate vault. The mountain, which had provided the fertile soil that allowed the city to flourish in life, now provided the sterile mineral matrix that would allow its memory to endure in death. The cycle was complete. From the mountain they came, and by the mountain they were preserved. This is the complex heart of the guardian volcano. It is a manifestation of the ancient paradoxical truth that creation and destruction are two sides of the same force. The same geothermal energy that can obliterate a forest can also warm a hot spring where life thrives. The same tectonic pressures that trigger earthquakes also push up the majestic mountains that define our horizons. Vesuvius, in its fury, was also in its grace. It was a terrible parent, but a faithful custodian. The secrets it chose to keep were not just of wealth or power, but of life itself. It preserved the graffiti on a tavern wall, the price of wine scrawled in charcoal. It saved the carbonized fruit in a market stall. It held safe the intimate layout of a family home, the garden where children played, the kitchen where meals were prepared. These are not the secrets of state. They are the secrets of humanity. The volcano, in its immense impersonal power, became the guardian of the most personal and fragile things. For nearly 17 centuries, it kept its vigil. It stood over the landscape, a silent, green sentinel, giving no hint of the perfect, preserved world that slept beneath the feet of farmers and shepherds. It allowed forests to grow over its secret. It allowed new towns to be built, all while holding the old ones in a perfect, timeless trust. It was a guardian of impeccable discretion. When the world was finally ready, when the tools and the sensibilities of preservation had evolved, the mountain began to slowly, subtly reveal its treasure. It did not give up its secret all at once. It allowed itself to be courted by patient hands and curious minds, revealing its story layer by layer, as if testing our worthiness to receive it. So, what does this mean for us?
As we seek protection and peace in our own lives,
We often wish for a gentle guardian, a soft hand to guide us. But life, like the volcano, is often powerful and unpredictable. Challenges erupt without warning, reshaping our landscape in terrifying ways. The image of the guardian volcano asks us to reframe these cataclysms. Could it be that the very forces that seem to destroy our plans, our comforts, our old ways of being, are also, in their own fierce and inexplicable way, acting as guardians? Are they perhaps building a protective shell around a part of us that needs to be sheltered from a different kind of erosion? The erosion of our spirit, our authenticity, our core self? Imagine the trials of your life as your own personal volcanoes. They are frightening and powerful. They bury landscapes you loved. But in their wake, they create a stillness. They force a pause. They build a protective barrier between you and the world, giving you a sealed space, a crypt of the soul in which to rest, to be preserved, and to wait for your own gentle awakening. Your guardian volcano is not a gentle spirit. It is a power of the earth. It is the part of you that says enough and creates a cataclysm to protect what is most fragile within. It is the force that ends a toxic relationship, that burns away a false identity, that forces a rest you would not have chosen for yourself. Tonight, do not fear the volcano within or around you. See it as a guardian.
a fierce, unyielding, but ultimately faithful protector of your deepest secrets and your most authentic self.
It may bury things, but it does so to save them. Let this thought bring you a strange, solid peace. You are watched over. You are protected, not by a soft hand, but by a mountain. Your struggles are not merely destructive. They are curatorial. They are preserving the you that is meant to endure. Rest now in the shadow of your guardian. Feel the immense, silent strength of the mountain that preserves you. It is quiet now. Its work is done. You are safe within the boundaries it has drawn. Sleep, guarded and preserved. The mountain watches over you. Beyond the grand frescoes and the solemn casts, beyond the public forums and the bakeries, lies the true heart of the story. It is a story told not in shouts, but in whispers. It is found in the small personal items that were, for a moment, touched by a living hand and then set down, never to be picked up again. These objects are a catalogue of quiet moments, the fragile, beautiful punctuation of a life interrupted. Archaeology, at its most profound, is the science of the mundane. It is in the careful brushing away of ash from a wooden dressing table that we meet a woman preparing for her day. There, lying exactly where it was placed, is a ring. Not a king's ransom, but a simple band of gold, perhaps engraved with a lover's name. It is cold to the touch now, but for a moment it held the warmth of a finger, the pulse of a life. It speaks of a promise made, a bond worn close to the skin, a small private joy. In another room, a small bronze object is found. It is a rattle, shaped like a little pig, with tiny stones inside that would have made a soft, clattering sound when shaken by a chubby fist. The child is gone, but the toy remains, a fossilized moment of play. We can almost hear the gurgling laugh that would have accompanied it. See the smiling face of a parent watching from across the room. It is an object of pure, simple joy, a testament to the universal language of childhood, now silent. This catalogue is endless, and each entry is a window. A set of bronze scales, frozen with the weight still upon them, tells of a transaction paused mid-thought. A loaf of bread, as we have seen, is a moment of anticipated sustenance. A pot left simmering over a hearth now cold holds the ghost of a family's evening meal. A dice, lying on a tavern floor, captures the split second of a game's outcome, the laughter or groans of the players forever suspended in the air around it. These are not the artifacts of a city preparing for its end. They are the artifacts of a city simply living. They represent the unremarkable, beautiful flow of an ordinary day. The volcano did not interrupt a ceremony or a battle. It interrupted breakfast, a shopping trip, a nap, a game. It froze life not at its most dramatic, but at its most authentic. This is where the true, heartbreaking peace of Pompeii resides. It is not in the scale of the tragedy, but in the intimacy of the preservation. We do not connect with the abstract concept of a Roman. We connect with the individual who wore that ring. We connect with the parent who chose that rattle. We see our own lives reflected in their quiet, domestic moments. The thousand small things that make up a day, the keys we misplace, the cup we leave on the counter, the book we set aside, are, in Pompeii, rendered sacred. They are the quiet, unassuming poetry of existence. This catalogue of quiet moments offers us a different perspective on our own lives. We often measure our days by their grand achievements, their loud successes, or their dramatic failures. We feel that to matter, a moment must be significant. But Pompeii argues the opposite. It tells us that what truly endures, what truly defines a life, is the quiet catalogue, the small personal rituals, the touch of a hand, the taste of a meal, the sound of a child's laughter. Your life, right now, is a living catalogue of such moments. The warmth of the mug in your hands, the weight of the blanket over you, the slow, steady rhythm of your breath as you listen. These are the artifacts of your existence. They are just as precious, just as worthy of preservation as any bronze ring or terracotta lamp. And so, as you lie in the quiet of the night, I invite you to become the archaeologist of your own day. Gently sift through the layers. Do not look for the grand monuments, but for the small, quiet finds. What is the ring you encountered today? A moment of unexpected kindness, perhaps, a smile from a stranger that you pocketed and carried with you. What is the rattle? A moment of simple, unadulterated joy, the taste of your favorite food, the warmth of the sun on your skin, a few minutes lost in a beautiful piece of music. What is the unfinished meal? A task left for tomorrow, a conversation paused, a thought not fully formed. It is not a failure. It is simply an entry in the catalogue marked to be continued. Do not judge these artifacts. Simply catalogue them. Hold them in your mind as the archaeologist holds the fragile, carbonized object with care, with respect, and with the understanding that it represents a moment of a life now past. And then,
As the ash of sleep begins to fall, let them be.
let these quiet moments be sealed in the peaceful strata of the night. They are safe there. They are preserved. They have done their work. Your day is complete. Its catalogue is written. There is nothing more to add. Let the final entry be this: a slow, deep breath. A body settling into rest. A mind, its quiet moments acknowledged and honored, finally allowing the great, gentle silence to descend. Sleep now among your own quiet catalogue. You are part of the beautiful, endless collection of life's small, perfect moments. And so, dear listener, our quiet journey through the ash-covered streets and into the silent homes draws to a close. We have wandered together from the first gentle fall of pumice to the final, poignant artifacts of a day interrupted. We have seen how the mountain, in its fierce and final act, became a guardian, a curator, a preserver of moments. But now we must look beyond the individual stories, beyond the city itself, and see this not as an end, but as a return, a completion, the ultimate geological rest where life circles back to its fiery source. Our planet is a being of immense, slow cycles. Water evaporates from the ocean, forms clouds, falls as rain, carves rivers, and returns to the sea. Rock is weathered to soil which feeds life, which in time returns to the soil. And deep beneath this, the greatest cycle of all turns with patient, unimaginable force. The tectonic dance of the Earth's plates, where the ocean floor is drawn back into the mantle, recycled in a furnace of unimaginable heat and pressure, to be born again, in time, as new land. A volcano is a vent in this system. It is a place where the planet's inner fire, its lifeblood of molten rock, reaches the surface. The same materials that were subducted and melted deep below now rise, bringing with them the minerals that create fertile soil. This is why civilizations so often flourish on volcanic slopes. They are built upon the gifts of the deep earth. They are living upon the very breath of the planet. In this light, the story of Pompeii and Herculaneum is not a story of a world being destroyed by an alien force. It is a story of a world being gathered back by the force that created it. The communities that lived there were children of the mountain. They drank water filtered through its rock, ate food grown in its soil, built their homes from stone quarried from its flanks. Their lives were inextricably woven from the substance of Vesuvius. The eruption was the mountain calling its own back home. The burial was not an interment in foreign soil, but a reintegration. The bodies, the homes, the artifacts, all were returned to the geological cycle from which they had temporarily emerged. The ash and rock that entombed them were not alien, but familial. They were the mountain's own substance, reuniting with the life it had fostered. The carbon in the bread, the calcium in the bones, the silica in the glass, all of these elements began a long, slow journey back into the earth, to be transformed and, perhaps one day, to rise again in a new form. This is the deepest peace this story has to offer. It is the peace of the great circle closing. We spend our lives feeling separate from the world around us. We see ourselves as individuals, transient and fragile, moving upon a solid, permanent stage. But this is an illusion. We are not on the earth, we are of the earth. Our bodies are made of its atoms, our lives are brief expressions of its energy. Volcanic burial is the most literal and profound expression of this truth. It is a swift, decisive return to the source. It is a reunification with the planet's fiery heart. There is no cleaner, more complete cycle. From the mantle they came, and to the mantle, in essence, they returned. The silence that followed was not the silence of absence, but the silence of a great and solemn homecoming. This is the final comforting lesson for our own rest. Every night when we sleep, we are practicing a small return to the source. We surrender our individual consciousness, our daily worries, our sense of a separate self. We dissolve back into a more fundamental state of being. We return to the warm, dark, silent core of our own existence. Your breath, as you drift to sleep, is the slow, steady exhalation of your day. Your body, growing heavy, is surrendering its temporary form to the pull of the earth. The thoughts, slowing in your mind, are like the last embers of a fire, cooling and returning to the darkness from which they sparked. You are not just going to sleep. You are completing a cycle. You are returning the borrowed energy of the day. You are integrating the experiences, folding them back into the deep, quiet substrate of your being. You are, in your own small way, practicing the ultimate geological rest. So, as we end our journey, let this thought cradle you completely. You are not a stranger seeking shelter in the night. You are a part of the world, coming home. The bed beneath you is the welcoming earth. The darkness around you is the nurturing mantle. The silence is the peace of the source. There is no need to hold on. The cycle is turning, and it will carry you. The mountain has called its children home, and you are one of them. Let go. Return. Breathe out and feel yourself flowing back into the great, quiet heart of everything. Sleep. Your journey is complete. You are home.